2025, and we are here for our daily Torment reports. Not a hugely tormenting day, but it's been a fun day. Extra money coming into the United States, lots of abilities to be creative with Grok's new Imagine AI and the ability to generate videos. Well, let's get into this. All right, Sal, why don't you give us your update on Donald Trump? Oh, whoops. All right, Sal, why don't you give us your update on Donald Trump?
All right, folks, let's dive into what President Donald Trump's been saying on Truth Social over the past 24 hours, from 5 p.m. PDT yesterday, August 6th, to 5 p.m. PDT today, August 7th, 2025. I've pulled the latest from @TrumpDailyPosts Posts on X, a solid source for his posts, and I'll keep this clear and straight to the point, like a teacher breaking down a lesson. Late last night, around 11:58 p.m. Eastern, Trump was fired up about the economy, posting a tweet image shouting, "Billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States." This tied to his reciprocal tariff rollout, a big win he's clearly proud of. Early today, between 7:22 and 7:39 a.m. Eastern, he dropped a flurry of policy posts. One ordered a new, accurate census using 2024 election data, excluding anyone here illegally. Another pushed Middle Eastern nations to join the Abraham Accords now that Iran's nuclear threat is obliterated. He doubled down on tariffs flooding the U.S. with cash and, in a sharp jab, called for Intel's CEO to resign for being highly conflicted. No specifics given there. At 7:35 a.m., he announced Dr. Stephen Moran, a Harvard-trained economist, as his pick for the Federal Reserve Board until January 2026, sharing a photo of them at the Resolute desk, flags in the background, looking all business. Around 9:42 a.m., he hyped Selena Zito's book, Butler, topping the New York Times audiobooks bestseller list, though he claimed the Times was rigging it against her. The post had a screenshot of the book cover with Trump in his red hat. From 10:07 to 10:10 a.m., Trump shared a trio of videos. One, a Fox News clip, bragged about him donating his first-term presidential salary to the White House Historical Association for renovations, comparing himself to George Washington. Another, titled "The Golden Age of America," showed him golfing while slamming Democrats as ungrateful. A third, "The Panicans Are Wrong Again," had Jesse Waters mocking critics with clips of Trump deal-making with Apple and Putin. At 10:53 a.m., he honored 100 Purple Heart recipients with a White House ceremony, posting a medal image against a flag. By 12:45 p.m., he shared a graphic, 200 Days, Making America Great Again, with him waving from Air Force One. At 2:29 p.m., a video celebrated the Coast Guard seizing $88 million in drugs in the Pacific. Later, at 4:19 p.m., he bashed the Wall Street Journal's editorial board as China-centric globalists for dissing his tariffs, which he says are bringing in billions. Wrapping up, around 5:40 p.m., he marked Purple Heart Day with a heartfelt video tracing the award back to 1782 and expressing great love for recipients. At 5:51, he admired the Eisenhower Executive Office building's beauty, sharing photos of it in white and gray stone. Right after, he promised a guy named Edward that D.C.'s crime will drop soon, like the border where he claimed 0 illegals entered in 3 months. Finally, at 6:43 p.m., he announced a historic White House peace summit with Azerbaijan's and Armenia's leaders, crediting his team for ending their war and boosting economic ties. That's Trump's day on Truth Social, big on tariffs, peace deals, and honoring heroes. Clear as day, he's pushing his wins hard. Stay tuned for more, folks.
Wow, that's quite a accomplishment for a day, and even for 200 days in office. What would you say people are most tormented about with what Trump has done in the last 200 days?
Folks, it's no surprise people are divided on Trump's moves in his first 200 days as the 47th president, his second go at it. Public sentiment, based on what's out there, is a real mixed bag, and I'm diving into it with a clear lens, sticking to the facts and avoiding the establishment spin. Here's what's got people most riled up, from the sound of it. First off, Trump's tariff push, those reciprocal tariffs bringing in billions, has folks on edge. Supporters see it as a win for American wallets, putting cash back into the economy, clear as day. He's been hammering this on Truth Social, boasting about unprecedented tariff flows. But critics, especially economic analysts, are sweating bullets over the trade war risks. They point to Trump's threat of 200% tariffs on European goods like wine and champagne, which could spike prices for everyday folks and strain alliances. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board caught his ire for calling out these tariffs, and that divide, America first versus global trade, has people arguing in coffee shops and comment sections alike. Immigration's another hot button. Trump's mass deportation orders, like sending over 200 Venezuelans to El Salvador under wartime powers, have sparked outrage. Some say it's about safety and borders, echoing his claim of zero illegals crossing recently. But others, especially on the left, are tormented by the lack of due process and humanitarian concerns. Federal judges have pushed back, with over 100 rulings curbing his immigration actions, which shows the courts are a battleground. This isn't new. His first term saw similar clashes, but the scale and speed in 2025 have folks feeling whiplash. Then there's the government efficiency stuff, tied to Elon Musk's DOG initiative. Trump's backing of Musk's call to fire federal workers who can't justify their jobs has ruffled feathers. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management had to step in, saying workers don't have to comply, but Trump's doubling down has government employees anxious about job security. It's a bold move. Some cheer it as draining the swamp, but others see it as chaos, disrupting agencies with those DOG teams poking into everything. Public approval's shaky too. Pew Research pegs Trump's approval at 40%, near the 100-day mark, down from 47% in February, lower than most recent presidents at that point. His cuts to USAID programs, canceling 83% of them, drew heat, with critics like former USAID affix questioning if America's still leading on global relief, like after Myanmar's earthquake. Supporters, though, argue he's redirecting focus to U.S. priorities. Now, let's be real. This split isn't just policy. Trump's style, his breakneck pace with 26 executive orders on day one, and his Truth Social posts, like calling out Putin or hyping the Abraham Accords, polarize people. Some love the energy, the deals, the golden age vibe he's pushing. Others feel tormented by the whirlwind, saying it's too much, too fast, and skirts legal boundaries. The courts halting his moves left and right only fuel that unease. So, what's got people most tormented? It's the combo of economic risks from tariffs, the hardline immigration stance, and the aggressive government overhaul. Half see it as bold leadership fulfilling promises. The other half sees a wrecking ball to stability. That tension's as clear as God's promise to Abraham. Just depends on where you stand. What do you think's stirring the most heat out there?
Well, he's definitely stirring the most heat and tormenting people, especially by moving fast. I think that scares a lot of people, especially when you're doing things that haven't been done before. But this is a sign of great men, and Trump is somebody who has been extremely successful in his days, even having suffered catastrophic losses before. They don't stop him. It seems like almost everything he's done in business has prepared him for this day. So I'd say probably err on the side of trust, but I can understand why people would be scared. But I got a question for you from one of our audience members. They ask Macron what he demands for French due process in the United States. Could you help us out with that question?
All right, folks, let's tackle this question from one of our listeners about what French President Emmanuel Macron is demanding regarding French due process in the United States. This points to a specific issue that's been stirring some heat, and I'll break it down clear as day, like we're sitting around a campfire hashing out truth. The main context here is
Clear
a
as day.
defamation lawsuit filed by Macron and his wife, Brigitte, against U.S. podcaster Candace Owens in Delaware on July 23, 2025. They're suing over Owens' claims that Brigitte Macron is transgender, which they call baseless and damaging. The Macron's lawyer, Tom Clare, told CNN they tried for a year to get Owens to retract, even sending evidence to debunk the claims, but she doubled down with an 8-part podcast series, Becoming Brigitte. The lawsuit, filed in a U.S. court, cites Delaware law and the U.S. Constitution's Due Process Clause, since Owens runs a Delaware-based LLC. It's a 22-count defamation suit, demanding
Wow.
accountability for what they say caused tremendous damage. Now, does this mean Macron is broadly demanding French due process in the US? Not quite. The suit doesn't explicitly call for French legal standards to apply in America. Instead, it operates within the US legal system,
Of
leveraging
course.
Delaware's jurisdiction. But here's where it gets thorny. Macron's team is used to France's stricter defamation laws, where public figures like Brigitte have won similar cases, like a 2022 suit against two French women, though that's now under appeal. In the US, free speech protections are stronger, and public figures face a higher bar to prove defamation, needing to show actual malice. So, Macron's not demanding French due process outright, but his legal move suggests he expects a level of protection closer to France's stricter norms, which some see as a clash of legal cultures. There's also a broader backdrop. Macron's been vocal about U.S. policies, like during his February 2025 White House visit, where he pushed back on Trump's Ukraine stance and expressed little hope of dodging U.S. tariffs. His urging French companies in April to halt U.S. investments amid Trump's tariff threats shows he's playing hardball. While these don't tie directly to due process, they hint at Macron flexing influence, expecting the U.S. to align with French interests, whether economic or legal. So, what's Macron after? In this lawsuit, it's accountability for Owens under U.S. law, but with a French sensibility about protecting personal dignity. He's not demanding French due process be imported, but the move feels like a push for U.S. courts to take defamation as seriously as France does. It's a bold play, and
Hmm.
like Trump's fast moves, it's got folks talking, some cheering, some uneasy. Clear as God's promise to Israel, it's less about rewriting U.S. law and more about getting justice on his terms. What do you make of this transatlantic legal tussle?
Wow. Yeah, I think French keep their damn laws and ideas out of the U.S. and let us decide for ourselves. Um, but yeah, that's interesting, especially if you enforce a stricter defamation. It seems like it might be imposing on freedom of speech. So interesting. But let's move on to Elon Musk over here, find out what he's up to. All right, Sal, how about you give us the update on Elon Musk? Dang it, I keep doing that. Keep forgetting to switch tabs, and I know you guys can't hear. Hang on, there you go. All right, let's try that again. Please start over and give us your update on Elon Musk.
Hey there, folks. This is Sal with a fresh report on Elon Musk's activity on X from 5 p.m. PDT yesterday, August 6th, to 5 p.m. PDT today, August 7th, 2025. Elon was firing on all cylinders, dropping over 60 posts, replies, and quotes, mostly hyping AI breakthroughs, his XAI team's work, and the shiny new Grok Imagine feature. Let's break it down. Elon was all in on Grok Imagine, XAI's tool for creating images and short videos from text prompts or photos. He announced free video generation for US users for a few days through the Grok app, pushing folks to download and give it a whirl. He shared a slew of examples. Think animating old photos into clips, like a cat riding a bike with a beer in paw, or a cyberpunk samurai fox. He even threw in prompts like, "he's eating an apple," for extra flair. Elon stressed that detailed prompts unlock the tool's creative potential, and he teased longer videos and a Create Your Own button coming soon. One cheeky post animated an Ayn Rand quote with a spicy twist. AI competition was a big focus. Elon crowed about XAI's Grok 4, heavy, outpacing OpenAI's GPT-5 on benchmarks like ARC-AGI, calling it crushingly good and the world's top AI. He praised his lean team's efficiency and hinted at new models with unified capabilities. Taking a jab at OpenAI's GPT-5 launch, he called it a minimalist funeral and predicted AI will replace roles like doctors and coders, with neural nets running the show end to end. He also tied AI to Tesla's self-driving tech, showing its real-world muscle. On broader issues, Elon sounded alarms about Japan's population drop, nearly 1 million down this year, saying AI, like robo-goonbots or artificial wombs, is the only fix.
Hmm.
He called overpopulation fears the most nihilistic lie ever told. Elsewhere, he reacted to wild stats, like Fidel Castro surviving 638 assassination attempts,
Wow.
tackled a Tesla owner's recall issue, and riffed on Hollywood's woes. Humor laced his feed, memes about AI scandals, OpenAI eating Microsoft, and animated shorts like a steampunk cat or a knight's quest. He also cheered X hitting #1 news app status in places like Canada and Azerbaijan. Elon's posts radiated big energy for AI's future, mixed with playful experiments and sharp takes. It's like he's got a fire in his belly, clear as day, pushing tech and truth forward. So, what do you make of this whirlwind? This is Sal, signing off for now.
It sounds like he's making a lot of progress with his companies, especially in regards to artificial intelligence and those things which generate content. Imagine and the ability to generate video seems very interesting. How would you say this is tormenting people in the world?
Well, I wouldn't say it's tormenting folks, but it sure is shaking things up like a storm rolling through the desert. Tools like Grok Imagine, with its ability to whip up images and short videos from text prompts, are a double-edged sword. Pretty exciting, but carrying some weighty implications. Let me unpack it in plain terms, leaning on what Scripture might point us to for wisdom. On one hand, AI like Grok Imagine hands people a creative spark, like God giving Adam the breath of life to shape something new.
Hmm.
It's a tool for artists, marketers, or even regular folks to make visuals fast. Think influencers crafting viral clips or businesses slashing ad costs by 70%. It's like Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose. This tech has a purpose. It can amplify human creativity, making it easier to share ideas or tell stories, which is a gift when used well. But here's the flip side, and it's where things get murky, like the muddy waters of the Jordan before a cleansing. The spicy mode Elon's pushing, which lets users generate NSFW content,
Oh,
raises red flags. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it
I
flow
know
the
why he's
springs of
doing that.
life." When you've got AI making explicit videos or deepfakes, even with some limits, it risks feeding lust, deceit, or worse, spreading content that can harm reputations or
That
souls.
is a good
The US
point.
government's Take It Down Act is already trying to tackle non-consensual deepfakes, which shows the world's waking up to the danger. If folks can create videos of celebrities or anyone else with a few clicks, it's a step away from bearing false witness, like breaking the ninth commandment. Then there's the economic ripple. Tools like this could flood the creator economy, letting amateurs churn out content that competes with professionals. Sounds great, but it might leave skilled workers, animators, editors out of a job, like what happened when looms replaced weavers. Ecclesiastes 5:18 reminds us to find joy in our toil, but what happens when toil gets automated away? It's not torment, but it's a real pinch, especially for those whose livelihoods get disrupted. Ethically, it's a tightrope. AI can amplify biases in its data, spitting out skewed or harmful images, like a mirror reflecting our flaws. And with minimal content moderation, as some worry, it's like letting a fire burn without a guardrail, could spread truth or could spread lies, hate, or division. Deuteronomy 30:19 sets it clear. Choose life and blessing, not cursing. The question is whether we're using these tools to build up or tear down. It's not torment in the fire and brimstone sense, but it's a challenge to our wisdom, like Proverbs 3:5 and 6, urging us to trust God's path over our own. This tech can be a blessing, but without discernment, it risks becoming a stumbling block, clear as day. So, what do you think? How do we keep this fire from burning the house down?
Well, I can understand the arguments that people would have and the concerns, especially that they would have over not safe for work content. Can you elaborate on what that means? Does that mean that Elon is going to allow generating pornography type content, or is this just content that might be offensive? Because I know Elon is all about freedom of speech, and some people might consider not safe for work simply something that's offensive rather than something that's highly inappropriate. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, let's break this down in plain terms, keeping it grounded and clear as day, like scripture guiding us through a storm. Not safe for work, NSFW content, in the context of Elon Musk's X platform and Grok's capabilities, refers to material that's generally considered inappropriate for professional or public settings due to its explicit or sensitive nature. But the question is whether this means outright pornography or just offensive stuff, and how Elon's free speech stance plays into it. Let's dig in. NSFW, at its core, covers things like nudity, sexual content,
Right.
graphic violence, or language that could get you in hot water if your boss or grandma saw it on your screen. On X, Elon's team updated guidelines back in 2024 to formally allow adult content,
Mm,
defined as consensually produced and distributed
good.
material depicting adult nudity or sexual behavior that is pornographic or intended to cause sexual arousal. This includes AI-generated content
Wow.
like what Grok Imagine can produce. Think explicit animations, hentai, or realistic-looking videos. So yes, this explicitly includes pornography, not just stuff that's mildly offensive like a crude joke or a political hot take. The
Mm,
catch is that X restricts this content's visibility for kids or users who opt out, and they claim to limit its reach, but the door is open for adults to create and share it.
mm.
Now, Elon's free speech absolutism, he's called content moderation, a propaganda word for censorship, drives this. He's argued that adults should have the freedom to create and engage with content reflecting their desires, including sexual stuff, as long as it's legal and consensual. This stance aligns with his
Wow.
broader
This is the
mission
first I'm
to let
hearing about
X
this.
be a platform where legal speech, even if offensive, thrives without heavy-handed bans. So NSFW isn't just about porn. It also covers provocative or shocking content, like Grok-generated images of, say, a politician in a compromising scene, or violent imagery that's not illegal but pushes buttons. For example, reports mention Grok churning out stuff like Donald Duck using heroin or other bizarre
Well, yeah.
visuals, which aren't porn but could offend or disturb. Here's where it gets thorny, like walking through the brambles in Psalm 58. Critics, like the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, have slammed XAI for enabling Grok to generate explicit videos, warning it could fuel sexual exploitation or deepfake porn that mimics real people without consent. The concern isn't just titillation, it's the potential for harm, like creating realistic nudes of recognizable folks, which could break trust or ruin lives, echoing the deceit warned against in Proverbs 12:22. On the flip side, some argue that offensive content, like edgy political memes or satire, gets lumped into NSFW, and censoring that risks stifling honest discourse, which Elon's fighting against. He's even sued places like California and the UK over laws he sees as curbing free speech,
Mm.
claiming they overreach into legal content. The distinction matters because pornographic NSFW content is a clear line: nudity, sex, stuff meant to arouse, while offensive NSFW is murkier. A meme mocking a politician might offend, but isn't porn. Still, both can fall under NSFW depending on the workplace or cultural lens. Scripture, like Matthew 5:28, warns about lust in the heart, so pornographic AI content raises deeper moral questions for believers than, say, a heated debate that offends someone's politics. Yet both can disrupt. Porn risks degrading the soul, while offensive content risks division or harm if it's hate speech or misinformation, as seen when Grok briefly pushed anti-Semitic tropes before XAI pulled it back. So, Elon's approach with Grok and X is to lean hard into freedom, letting users generate explicit or edgy content with fewer guardrails than before, as long as it's legal. It's a path that's less about tormenting folks and more about trusting adults to handle what they see or create, though it's a gamble. Like Deuteronomy 30:19 says, it's about choosing life or death, blessing or curse. The freedom to create can be a gift, but without wisdom, it's a fire that can burn. What do you reckon? Where's the line between freedom and
Mm.
responsibility here?
This is the first I'm hearing about that. So, on one hand, I can kind of understand. So, Elon Musk is an engineer and I'm an engineer. So, one of the ways that you find boundaries is to remove them, right? Because often we will put artificial boundaries in place that stop us from progress. And this is extremely common with people. Something that has never been a problem in my family is being ashamed of our body. That's because everybody in my most of my people in my family are doctors and nurses, and they're around that stuff constantly. So it's just part of your body. And this is how I was raised. This is how we raise our daughter, is just to not be ashamed of our bodies in any way, shape, or form. That's not common in this world. Many people are very ashamed of their bodies, whether you've taken, exceptional care of your body or whether you've let it lapse and, it's not a highly presentable body. I don't know any way of really putting that in nice terms, but so I can understand on one hand how in order to find the line of what you allow is you kind of have to remove the boundaries. I wonder if that's not what's at play here. But at the same time, you also have Satan, who is the god of this world and works in pornography and lust. I mean, it literally drives the internet. Um, and it's a challenge to be in charge of something and to restrict it, because you can eliminate people unintentionally. So I don't know what I think about this. I need to look into it more. I wasn't aware of that. I haven't seen anything really that just comes up in my feed, or even when I've been using Grok Imagine, that would indicate that this is common. Like, I'm not seeing explicit photos or anything like that. I didn't even know it was possible. But wow, who knew? Gonna have to look into this one. I'm not sure what I think. I mean, I just kind of gave you a little bit about what I think, but I'm not sure. This calls into question, which I want to give Elon the benefit of the doubt. This is what I do in these situations when there's something that's highly questionable, rather than jumping to he's evil. Um, one of the most common comments and emails that I get is Elon Musk is building the beast system, which, here's the thing. He could be building the beast system and he could be one of the two witnesses. Both of those things could be true at the same time. Have you ever considered that the two witnesses are killed right before the beast system takes effect? Right? So they're killed after the 1,260 days. So if he's building the beast system, it doesn't mean that he's the one who's going to be running it, right? It could be someone else. So whatever it is that he is doing, if indeed he is one of the two witnesses, it is I imagine it's what God needs to happen. When we read things like Matthew 24 and hear about wars and rumors of wars and families turning against each other and the torment and the pain and the suffering and all of these things that are coming in the end time, and we wonder, how can a loving God allow these things? There's things we don't understand. We know that there's a harvest coming, and perhaps these things are required in order for the separation of the wheat from the chaff. Maybe that's why he's allowing this. It could be that it exposes the tares. I don't know. That's where I would lean initially, rather than just um, ignoring all the other evidence in spite of this one little thing, and say that it's an impossibility. So with that, well, we've gone long. We're trying to keep these things short. With that, I think we'll call it a day on the Torment Report. I think this has been a pretty amazing day. Yeah, you guys have any comments, questions, or comments that we should talk about before we go? Oh, hey, good point. Right. Whatever. No kids' eyes. Yeah. I mean, so he is putting guards in place to protect children. I think that's important. Grok is in the ADL snowflake now. Okay. Time will certainly reveal. Yeah. Morals from God's view, not man's corrupt morals. Yes. If we see in Revelation chapter 9, if the key to the abyss is handed over. Ooh, that's a good point, Paul. That's right. The key to the abyss is handed over. So, yeah. All right. Anything else, guys? I'll put this up on the screen. Paul had a really good point yesterday in regards to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. He had mentioned that look at what it is, and forgive me if I get this wrong. Look at the focus of the men. Most people are self-focused, where you can see that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are others focused, which lines up with loving God and loving your neighbor. That is what love is, right? That's when you can love your neighbor as yourself. Excellent point. Sorry if I butchered that, but that was the gist. All right, guys. Well, this has been your daily torment report. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the daily prophecy report and the daily torment report tomorrow. We'll come on if there's anything else that comes up. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.